Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we've talked quite a bit and we've worked quite a bit on our inside world. What can I do to change me? And as I change me, I change my outside world. We understand that concept. What we're talking about today is change happens. Like it or not, change happens, and on some level, it works for us. Now, we bring this up today. Why today? Today, well, tomorrow, here real soon, is May Day, right? Today? Today is May Day? Happy May Day! Now, back in the day, today we would have said, Happy Flora. Flora is the Roman goddess of flowers. And today was, in the old pagan calendar, if you look at Halloween, the exact opposite of Halloween, going across if you were to take the calendar and lay it out like a circle, exactly across from Halloween is May Day, or they would call Happy Flora. Now, where Halloween was to celebrate the dead and those who had crossed over, and that end of the spectrum, today was designed to celebrate life, the growing of things, the growing of flowers, and these things. So we would say, Happy Flora. Now, in America, today represented something very different, which actually spread to the whole world. In Chicago, in the 1800s, 1868, there was a huge uprising of the labor force that demanded an 8-hour workday. Led to massive strikes, even led to some deaths. And it led to today. And as of today, as of May Day, was an 8-hour workday that got implemented not only across the country, but across the world. And so today is actually, in almost every other country in the world, called International Workers' Day, or Labor Day. Throughout the whole world, with the exception of us, who kind of started it in Chicago. We kicked ours out a few months. But anyway, that's another part of the energy of today, was that they knew that big change was coming, but then, poof, change actually got there. And that's what we're talking about today, is looking at the folks in the skit. I don't know about y'all, but I can directly relate to everybody in there, to each one of the roles in that skit. Change happens, and sometimes change is spooky, and sometimes change isn't at all what we want, or what we think we want, but it's exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need. Now, when we look at these kind of changes, we look at the combined manifestation of all my yesterdays leading into my today, and we look at group energies, things that we're all creating and co-creating together that seem to show up. Now, there are different times in life, right? There's times that it gets cold, there's times that it gets hot. There's times that we know that change is coming, like every week for the past month or so, it's gotten a little warmer and a little warmer and a little warmer in this room. So we knew we had to do something. So we had a little trail of breadcrumbs, that little hints that it was coming, but we didn't know what it was going to look like. So we met with Maria this week and said, hey, what do you think? And she said, well, interestingly, you should say that you'd like to move it out here because my business is dead from 8 in the morning until about 11, so I'm actually changing my hours and blah, 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 so why don't you all come up front? If you can do it a little earlier so that we can do this. And so our change took on we knew it was coming, but it took on a little different flavor than we thought it was gonna. Now with that, when change presents itself, now here comes the me part, here comes the you part. When change shows up, what do you do with it? Do you say, no, by goodness, this is what we do, and this is why we do it. We've always done it this way, so we're going to keep doing it this way no matter what. And we watch doors close. Or do we say, help me to trust in the master plan. Maybe there is something here that needed to be changed. If we're all co-creating this together, maybe there was a change that needed to come, and that change is now coming. And next week, that change is here. By embracing it instead of rejecting it. What is the trail of breadcrumbs in your life? What little thing has been showing up over and over and over and over that needs your attention? Now, what do you do with that trail of breadcrumbs that keeps showing up over and over and over and over and over? Do you strong arm it? No. I'm not going to do that, I don't do that, I do this, and I do this, and this is why, and this is how, and this is what, and this is where. To watch that door continually close. It Mary's analogy of the door on the pathway, and I've been there. then I'm trying to walk through that door and I get resistant to it. The wind comes up and that door knocks me in the head. And I back up, shake my head, look at it, and go, okay. And I start to go through the door and I get resistant to it. I'm not going to do it. Sure enough, smacks me in the head again. Anybody relate? Anybody else ever done anything like that? And there's other times that when those big changes come, those things that have, again, continually shown up in our lives that are begging for your attention, when we embrace them, then they lose their power. Then they lose their power. That's crazy, but it's cool. Right? We spend more time and energy resisting something, dramatically more time, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of times more energy resisting something than it would actually take to accomplish it. Maybe you can relate to me, maybe you can't. Anybody got an inbox on their computer? Anybody's inbox on zero? This thing designed to make our lives so much easier and free up all our time. My inbox had about 300 messages in it. Anybody else relate? Now we think about all of the time that it takes to think about, I want to answer those emails, but there are just so many and I don't even know where to start. And I started and I got 3 done, but then this showed up and I didn't know what to do with it, and blah, blah, blah. And so we spend all this time thinking about it, eating up our time and energy, that to actually go through and just say, select all, delete. If it was that important, they'll write back. Or, I will give myself 10 seconds per email. And I'll just make little folders. Little folder says, stories to read later. Notes from friends and family. And just divide it out into the junk mail, the stuff we actually want to read, and the 2 or 3, or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 that actually require our attention. Right? But we spend all this time and energy on not doing it. When I had something that was showing up in my life, not long ago, about 6 months ago, my weight had become an issue. And I spent so much time excusing it and dismissing it and making excuses for it, that when I found that I was ready to do something different, it actually took less energy to lose the weight than it did to keep it. Right now, change and the winds of change are blowing very strongly. Can you feel it? Have you felt big change? Have you seen big change in your life already? It is coming, folks. And inside of my house, this week, my wife went to work. She took a job at Walmart. She's been there 3 days. She has not worked the entire time that we have been together. 4 years. Off and on, little things here or there just to help out with something. But, hey, I'm going to go get a job, I have a job, and I'm going to do a job. And sorry, honey, I'm going to be gone 8 hours a day because I got stuff to do. Hadn't happened. That's a big change in my world. That's a big change in her world. She'd been struggling for a long time with financial things. Maybe some of us can relate to struggle with some financial things in our life. And she looked at that trail of breadcrumbs that said, I spend how many hours a day thinking about money and thinking about bills and thinking about things that I need to buy and thinking about whatever. And I kept being told, and I keep feeling, I keep finding myself looking through the want ads, and I keep finding myself thinking about a job. Maybe it's going to take me less energy to go get it than it is to want it. Big change. Big change. Our world right now is poised for big change. Big change. Business as usual is getting thrown out the window, folks. There is not the energy for business as usual anymore. Our country is in debt, $15 trillion. $15 trillion. Now, just as an example, just as a wrap your mind around it thing. 1 million seconds, right? 1 million seconds. 1 1,000, 2 1,000. 1 million of those equals 13 days. 1 billion of those, 1 billion seconds, is 31 years. worth of seconds. 1 trillion seconds is 31,000 years of seconds. Wrap that out of your mind around that for a second. Our country is in debt $15 trillion. With its unfunded liabilities, it's closer to $80 trillion that our country is in debt. Our lawmakers in Washington are saying we cannot continue. We have hit our national debt ceiling. As of a week ago, and they pushed it out for 3 weeks, I'm not sure how they did that, it was the magic wand. But as of a week ago, we hit our debt ceiling where our country owes more than it's worth. First time in history. Things are changing because they have no choice but to change. Last week, China said that it holds $3 trillion US dollars and it's losing faith in America, so it's going to cash out 2 trillion of them. The value of our dollar is right now 72 cents. If China does dump 2 trillion US dollars on the market, supply and demand says that the value of the dollar is going to plummet, maybe worth half, maybe worth 50 cents. What that means to you and me is that everything we do will cost us twice as much as it used to. In recent weeks, our president made grouchy the folks in Saudi Arabia, and they said, we refuse to do business with you anymore. We have canceled all US contracts. And economists are saying that that may lead to gas prices, to oil prices going up to $200 to $300 per barrel. That means what we pay at the pump could be 2 to 3 times as much in the very near future. Pretty grim, isn't it? Now my point is not to come up here and say how bad it is. That's not my deal. Y'all know me better than that. What it is to say is that think of life like a pendulum. It will swing as far this way as it absolutely can. And then it'll swing back the other way. And then it'll go to correcting itself. Now think about this. Here's an analogy for you. But think about jumping off the high dive into a swimming pool, but you don't quite touch bottom yet. And you start struggling to try to get up to get your some air. That's a spooky place to be. Now in that same analogy, if you jump off the diving board into the pool and you reach the bottom of the pool, whoosh, you can spring right back up. You can spring right back up to the top quick and easy. Our country has finally hit a bottom. Our world is finally hitting a bottom. In the last 3 weeks, the countries of Portugal, Spain, and France have all basically declared bankruptcy. They've gone to the European Union and said, loan us some money, our countries are bankrupt. It's not just us. The entire world is in the process of changing. Business as usual is no longer business as usual. Now, all of that is true, but all of this is true also. There are some amazing opportunities going on right now where things are set to change in a way that is more positive and more profound, financially, economically, socioeconomically, politically, in ways that they haven't done in human history. Things are set to rebalance from here all the way over to here to find that point in the middle. Now the point is, and the point with today's topic is, sometimes change happens. Sometimes we want it, we pray for it, we need it. Sometimes we do the internal work to get it. Other times as a group, not just a group here, but a group of Brevard, a group of Florida, a group of America, a group of the Western Hemisphere, and a group on the entire planet co-create events in a big, big way. And that's what's going on right now. Now, we can choose, just like with Mary, when you can walk up to the doorway of change, do you choose to see the doorway over here of the negative, of the, this is really gonna suck, so I'm gonna prepare for it to be really bad? Or, you come over to this other doorway, rose-colored glasses, and say, wow, how can this be a blessing? How can this be a blessing? Because the blessings abound right now. When things big happen, even things that are perceived as negative, that's oftentimes what brings out the absolute best in us as people. The absolute best. After 9/11, before 9/11, I didn't know any of my neighbors. I lived in Los Angeles. Didn't have a clue. William Moore. After 9/11, I knew all my neighbors on a first-name basis. And we came together as a community. We helped each other out. As a nation, we came together. We looked over here at the economic portion of the world and seeing how things are not going to stay the same. Right? Over here, did you know there were more millionaires created during the Great Depression than any other time in human history? True story. True story. We can choose to see the glass as half empty, we can choose to see it as half full, or we can choose to see it all the way full, half full of water and half full of air. Right? It's our perception. Now, oftentimes in churches, oftentimes in the metaphysical community, we get so into the fuzzy duckies and bunnies of it's great and it's wonderful and it's happy. And it is, and it can be. But by the same token, over here, when we co-create things that bring about massive change, to be prepared for that change, to embrace, as God said in the skit, to embrace that change, and to not try to continue to maybe fix a leaky boat, but instead to say, let's build a new boat. Let's build something new together. We have the tools. We have God. We have our spirit. We have metaphysics that works. We have the ability together to not only get through it, but to prosper through it. Prosper. Not just financially, spiritually, to prosper. Emotionally, to prosper. As people, to see what's really important is each other. And to connect with each other. During and it's not over, but during the housing crunch, the crisis, the foreclosures, with people moving back in with their folks, on a karmic level, was repairing relationships that otherwise wouldn't have been. Right now, though, things are changing. The winds of changing that you are feeling are not only personal, they're not only of your community, they're of your entire planet. The winds of change are coming. Now with that, we can set our intentions, we can send our prayers, we can connect to each other. We can remove the us and them mentality to say we are all one. And we have one God with many names. We're just like in the skit, isn't there to judge? Is there to help push us out of the nest if need be? Today is Flora. Happy Flora. It's all about taking a seed and watching that seed become a plant, and that plant become a flower, and that flower to produce fruit, and that fruit to sustain. When the chicken first comes out of the egg, it's not pretty, folks. If you try to help the chicken out of the egg, the chicken won't make it. It actually needs what it gets by cracking itself out of the egg in order to develop strong enough beak and legs and lungs to survive. Now, as I'm looking around out here, I'm not seeing the traditional smiley, happy faces that I normally see. And so maybe I'm not coming across correctly here, because I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I'm not saying it's bad and getting worse. What I am saying is the time of change has finally happened, which means it's not going to get any worse than it is already. We are at the end of the worst. This is where we spring back. Or this is when we choose to accept this reality and take that roller coaster ride. I, for one, don't want to take that roller coaster ride. I can see the writing on the wall, and I can choose something different. My heart goes out to everybody who buys into this, and I will do my very best to help them come over to here, where it's happy, where it's good, where it's positive, where the changes are amazing. They say if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes. Right? It's just a different parade of butts. What I'm saying is, we are a group of free thinkers. Let's think differently. Let's act differently. Let's not bury our head in the sand at what's going on with the world. Let's look at that. And then let's work with God to rise our perspective above that, so that we can help those who are caught up in that undertow of the ocean. I believe that you can do it. I believe that you have already seen the trail of breadcrumbs in your life saying something is going to change. Now, whether that's health, whether that's love, whether that's finances, whether that's spirituality, or your spiritual gifts opening up, starting a new job, starting a new business, leaving an old job, leaving something old to start something new, taking something that you already have to a whole new level, or looking around at your life at the trail of breadcrumbs and things that haven't been working for you and saying, the pendulum has finally hit the wall. The time for me to change, the time for me to act on this trail of breadcrumbs is right now. And with God's help, you can do it, and it can be positive. And together, it will be. Thank you.
Each week we have a gift for you to help remind you and take the message with you throughout the week as a physical reminder. And today, we have...
Well, it didn't fit in the receiving basket. So, happy Flora.
It's May Day, so we have a flower for you. And the special thing about these flowers, it's vinca, which can go in the shade or the sun, doesn't need much water, and is very hardy to Florida. But vinca is actually the flower of change. It represents and helps individuals with that energy of change. And I kind of chose the pink to go along with your heart energy, your heart chakra, and your emotions with that change. There are also a few white ones if you're looking for more clarity or purity that would represent that energy. But
it's a manifestation that change is beautiful. And change is not to be feared. And change grows like anything else. And so we're going to invite everybody to come up and pick out the flower of your choice. Happy Flora. And as you take it home and as you watch that flower grow and blossom and prosper, it's going to remind you every time you see it that the change inside of you, just like that flower, is growing. It is a choice to prosper. Now, just like with the flower is going to remind you that it needs some attention. It needs something. It needs a little water, maybe it needs a little sun, a little shade, whatever it needs. Look at the trail of breadcrumbs inside yourself. What does it need? What does your change need for it to grow? Just like that flower. So we'll invite everybody to come up and pick out your gift. Pick out your flower.
Here comes Peter Cottontail.
I just like the change inside you. It started with a little seed. And look what it's already growing up to be. Now, if God gave you enough to share, we'd sure like it if you did. So if you would take your gift in your hand, and we're going to energize it. Money is just energy. And so we're going to energize it with even more energy, like a stereo with an amplifier. So imagine your gift, whatever you chose to give, whatever you were able to give, turbocharging, amplifying it, and cranking that dial up. As you say with us, if you agree, the prosperity prayer. Divine Spirit, bless these gifts. I welcome abundance in my life. Bless and multiply all that I am able to give and all that I am willing to receive. Woohoo!
Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny, hold it tight and you won't have any. Lend it, spend it and you'll have so many, they'll roll all over the floor. For love is something you can.
Well, welcome back into the front, the Connections Choir.
how you join with us in the song Be the Change.
And the words are printed right here, and we invite you to really listen to the words and sing along, read along, because they totally tie into the message that we had today. There we go. Maybe you can relate to the words of this song.
Well, have you ever felt that your life was over? all the pressures that surround you, and lost the girls that I found you. Oh, now don't you hide your light. Take a chance and open wide. And you will be the change. You will be the change. You will be the change that you want to see, and the world will change. If you be the change, if you be the change that you want to see in the world. Have you ever thought that you are powerless and thought? Have you questioned who am I? When I do it for a small life, well, don't you hide your light. Bring it forth in an open wide. You will be the change. You will be the change. You will be the change that you want to see, and the world will change. If you be the change, if you be the change that you want to see in the world. Gather around this song, my friends. Sing it loud and raise your hands. As we sing, we'll start to shine. We'll become a nation made of light. We will be the change. We will be the change. We will be the change that we want to see, and the world will change. If we be the change, if we be the change that we want to see, and the world will change. If we be the change, if we be the change that we want to see, and the world will change. If we be the change, if we be the change that we want to see in the world.
Have everybody gather in a circle or close apart.
Yes, you did. Join us in a closing prayer. Divine Spirit, we ask your blessing. We ask your strength, your courage, your wisdom, your guidance to help us lead from the front, to help us to be the change we want to see in the world, to be a light in a time of darkness, to help us to help ourselves so we can help each other. Help remind us of what is truly important in our lives, and give us the strength and the courage to look at whatever those trail of breadcrumbs that you've been leading us up to the doorway of change, that we would empower ourselves to say, today is the day that my world is going to change. Today is the day that I'm going to embrace that change. And where I see change already coming in the world around me, I'm going to do the things that I need to do today for me, so that I'm prepared, so that I'm in a better position to be of even more help to myself and to others if the need should grow. And I'll be in a position to help and enjoy life and abundance, prosperity, spirituality, connection, family, and folks who really, really love me along the way. We ask for your blessing in these things. We ask for your blessings on our planet, on our leaders, on every aspect of our daily lives. Amen.